And it's time now for Media Watch with James Greedon, who has just joined me on set. Welcome, James.
Hi, Shona.
You're talking all about Jamal Khashoggi today, and you're starting with reactions to Erdogan's naked truth speech. That's what he was calling it before.
That's right. And of course, a lot of anticipation of this. Some people talking today about a split screen, the split screen aspect of Mohamed Bin Salman at what they call the Davos in the desert, this conference which saw so many cancellations and people pulling out of it over the last couple of weeks. And then Erdogan addressing Parliament, these the two, I suppose, major figures caught up in the Khashoggi affair. And so some talking about get ready for the Tuesday split screen. Now, the split screen never happened because apparently Mohamed Bin Salman delayed his speech because he didn't want the rolling news coverage to have these two live moments about these two addresses on a day when Erdogan was going to be saying some key things about the Saudi role in the killing. So a lot of people reacting to Erdogan's speech. I'll just look at some of those reactions. Christopher Dickey of Newsweek and the Daily Beast, often invited here in France at France 24. Erdogan on Khashoggi, as predicted, a fig leaf on the promise to naked truth, including deferential references to King Salman. No gory details. Another comment here by Christopher Dickey. No talk of the famous but unheard recordings of Jamal's death. So this was all leaked by Turkish officials to Turkish media over the last while. But I suppose Erdogan was in between a rock and a hard place. He can't talk about probably, strictly speaking, not allowed bugging of embassies because this is the domain of state secrets. He can't talk about that openly, but it was leaked to the media because that much could be said or done. But it can't be.
Not the tapes themselves, of course, but the fact that they exist.
Exactly,
right.
Exactly. And of course questions about how and where, how they exist, because the official story is an Apple Watch and whatnot, but I think it's understood that it was probably
not that. Yes.
David Kirkpatrick of the New York Times saying Erdogan's apparent attempt to divide King Salman from his favourite son, Mohammed bin Salman, may be the most interesting element of the speech. So some saying that Erdogan used the speech to appeal to the Saudi king and didn't mention Mohammed bin Salman at all. So perhaps notable from the absence of what was said as well. This is the most important takeaway from the speech. Erdogan lets the Saudis know that he has evidence that he will not drop the case, but keeps the door open to the Saudis. Now, so much to say on this, I'll try to get through it quickly enough, but The Guardian, in this opinion piece by Martin Chulov, saying Khashoggi case has put the Saudi prince right where Erdogan wants him. Now, this gets us into geopolitics, but just very quickly, I suppose you could say they are opponents in the region, Mohammed bin Salman and Erdogan. The two men have vastly different visions for the future of the region. Erdogan has been a champion of political Islam, both at home and abroad, particularly since the rise and fall of Mohamed Morsi in Egypt. The Turkish president has partnered with Qatar, Riyadh's regional foe, and it goes on to explain the fact that they really don't have the same vision for the region at all, but that Erdogan does have respect for the Saudi king. So it's really about putting pressure on the Saudi king to remove what he considers to be an obstacle in terms of Turkish ambitions, which is Mohammed bin Salman himself and the personal power that he has accumulated. Meanwhile, Iran, this is quite a good article on our French website talking about Iran. Well, silently sort of pleased to observe all of this. Of course, Iran
hasn't said a thing since the beginning of the affair.
Right. But they're observing, and certainly the Saudis' loss would be their gain in this.
Right, waiting to see how those chips fall. Meanwhile, the so-called Davos in the desert taking place in Riyadh. What are the reactions to that?
All right, well, we saw a big build-up to this where people were, a lot of media organisations such as the New York Times, a lot of big business as well, were pulling out of this big business meeting annually in Doha. But Mohammed bin Salman was there. He did get a standing ovation. What else do we have? But people didn't want to be mentioned. Look at this. Many bankers kept their name tags obscured behind their ties or decided that this was not the year to speak to the news media. I'm not doing any media, said Ken Wellis, the founder and chief executive of Mellis & Company. I'll have to be a no comment. Now, I like how the New York Times actually put that comment in, which is probably not what he wanted, but you get the picture. Even the people who were there didn't want to be kind of identified as having been there. There was lots of pressure as well, Shona, going up on Twitter over the last number of weeks. Those who decide to attend the Davos in the desert are putting money above humanity. How can you support the murder of a journalist? Do right. If not, we can protest with our wallets and hashtagging, or not hashtagging, but copying in JP Morgan and others. The Saudi Gazette yesterday was talking up this conference, saying Future Investment Initiative, which is the official name for the conference, is set for a successful launch with very high attendance. Well, there was some evidence going up on social media of the attendance not being quite so high. The main auditorium slowly getting deserted here. You can see later on in the day after the main speeches, which led to some. They didn't probably have to look very far for this particular joke. Davos in the desert is looking deserted.
Meanwhile, MBS, so that's Mohammed bin Salman, met with Khashoggi's son for what must have been a very awkward meeting, that the son is not allowed to travel outside the country.
That's right.
And there's a lot of sympathy for the family of the
right.
slain journalist. Why can't he travel outside the country?
I guess security concerns on the part of the Saudi royal family. Who knows if Khashoggi was identified as a sort of an enemy within, then the family too. It's hard to know what the reasoning is, but they did decide to not just phone the family, but to actually meet one of the sons called Salah. And you can see here many commenting on that, Fadi Al-Khadi. Here is the video of Salah, who had to shake the hands of he who is believed to be his dad's killer. Of course, it's thought that Mohammed bin Salman may have been informed about the planned murder. Ruthless, ruthless, ruthless. And another comment saying, spare a thought for Khashoggi's son, banned from leaving Saudi Arabia, who had to go and do this today.
Doesn't sound like well, the look on his face doesn't look very happy to do it in any case.
Definitely not.
But again, we don't know everything about the story yet, so we'll hold our commentary. Finally, it seems that despite the fact that it is one of the, we were just talking about this, one of the biggest stories in the media, there's a lot of different ways people are pronouncing his name. Khashoggi.
That's
I mean,
right.
I'm probably saying it wrong well, but
I think that's how it is pronounced. And I'm speaking to some of our Arabic channel colleagues and whatever. Interestingly, it's of Turkish origin. The name itself,
funny.
Khashoggi, which is, I suppose, an irony in the story. And just quickly looking at this, Khashogg in Ottoman means spoon or ladle. The G at the end means the person who spoons up the food. The spooner in Ottoman times was an important figure at court. The Sultan fed the Janissary army and the spooner represented him. So it's interesting that Erdogan, often referred to as a kind of a neo-sultan, that Khashoggi, a name of Turkish origin, is sort of playing into his broader now power play in the region. It's just a rather odd, ironic aspect to the story, which has certainly kind of a Romanesque quality to it, I think, to say the least.
Yeah, well, we'll be keeping an eye on how it continues to unfold. Thank you so much. Media Watch there with James Creedon.